Hello, today I'm going to show you how to put together your diptych and triptych. A reminder, a diptych is two photos that can be displayed next to each other that are going to show similarity and variety. The triptych would be three. Tri means three. I'm going to start by showing you how to create a diptych, and then after that I'll show you the triptych process, which is very similar, but there's a few differences. So I'll show you that process and how we go about it. First thing I want to do is open up both of my pictures. So I'm going to do File, Open. I'm going to search for where my image is. For you, it might be under Computer, so remember where you're going to go to find it, and then you'll open it. I have both of my pictures open already, so when I click on each of them in the tabs, they both show up. Now I'm going to move them into a new document. Before I do that, I want to check the size of both of my images to make sure they're similar. To do that, I'm going to click on Image, Image Size, and I'm going to look at the resolution, the height, and the width. So for mine it's 14, 21, and 240 is the resolution. So I'm going to say OK. I'm going to do that with the other one. So I'm going to do Image, Image Size. It's very similar to my other one, so we're good that way. Then I'm going to create a new document to pull them onto. So I'm going to do File, New. I'm going to give it a name right away, so I'm going to name mine Diptych. You might also want to add some kind of a keyword for what your subject is. So in this case, this is a musician. Her name is Kay Flay. Our document size is going to be 8.5 by 11, and it's going to be 300 resolution because when we print using the printer, we want to use 300 resolution, and this is the exact size of the document. Now, before I choose my height and my width, which is going to be 8.5 and which is going to be 11, I need to think about how my pictures are going to be laid out. So both of my pictures are going vertical, so it makes sense to have them next to each other, one on the left and right. So that means my width needs to be the longer way because I need to get two pictures next to each other, and my height is going to be the shorter way. If you were going to have your height be longer, then you would want to switch these. So you do 8 in your width, 8.5 in your width, and 11 in your height. So you need to think about this ahead of time, maybe even draw a picture and how you want these to be put together. Once you've done that, check to make sure the resolution is at 300, then we're going to say OK. So this creates a blank document. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to pull both of the pictures into this blank document. Just like we did for our sequence assignment, we're going to change our view. So we're going to do, you could do 2 up if you want to pull one at a time. I'm going to do 3 up because this allows me to see all 3 pictures at once along with my document. And I'm going to click on the first image that I want to bring over. So I'm clicking on the tab where I'm clicking on where the image is, and I can see the thumbnail of the picture in my background layer. So I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag it over. Before I drag my other one, I want to see what that looks like. So I'm going to go back up to Arrange Documents, click on the 1. You can see it's very large in comparison to my document. So I'm going to zoom out by doing Control minus. And then I want to change the size of this. To change the size, I'm going to go up to Edit, I'm going to go down to Transform, over to Scale. I'm going to click in the corner and I'm going to drag, and I want to make sure I hold Shift so I keep the proportions correct. If I'm not holding Shift, it can be too skinny, too wide, too long. So you want to make sure you're holding Shift to keep the proportions correct. And I want to get it to fit in there or be close to fitting in there. I can always come back later and readjust it. I'm going to have it go off just the edge slightly. I can always crop it or make it smaller later. And you'll want to notice the bounding box going around. I'm not allowed to do anything else in Photoshop until I either press the check mark or I press Enter to confirm to Photoshop, yes, I want to create that transformation. So I'm going to press Enter. Then I'm going to use my Move tool. I can move it off to the side, and then I'm going to bring in my other picture. So I'm going to go up to Arrange Documents. I'll do 3 to make sure I can see all 3 of my pictures. This is the next one I want to bring over, so I'm going to click on the document. You can see the thumbnail in the background layer. I'm going to click and drag it into my new document, the blank one that I had made. Once again, I'm going to change my view to 1. And this is an image that's too large, so I'm going to go up to Edit, down to Transform, and Scale, so I can change the size. Once again, I'll hold Shift. I'm going to make it smaller. I want to do the same thing I did for the last one. I'm going to zoom in with Control plus again, so that it's going just off the edge. And then I'm going to press Enter. So I need to make this just a little bit bigger. All right, so now I've got 2 images. So I want to think about how they're going to work together. So what I want to see of each picture. So the main picture is of the singer herself. And what I like about this image is she's on the hot spot here. Her arm leads to the other picture. And then we look at the leg over here and kind of the movement that way. I don't love the speaker in the picture here. It adds away. It doesn't really add. So I want to make sure I'm seeing more of this picture here and less of this one. So I'm going to move my first layer of her, the musician on top, because what that allows me to do is to click on this one, layer 2, and I'm going to move it over so that I can see her feet. That's the whole idea behind it. But I'm going to cover up the speaker, and that's because this layer is on top of the feet layer. Okay. Now I actually want to make this a little bit bigger, so maybe her feet are a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go back up to Edit, Transform, Scale. Once again, hold Shift. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so that that is more of a main focal point, like this. I'm going to press Enter, and then once again, clicking on my Move tool, I can still move this so it's a little more like this. I'm going to change the size one more time. I think I zoomed in just a little bit too much, so you might have to do a little back and forth to get it exactly how you want it to look. Okay, once I've done this, I want to also think about how these are overlapping. So do I want to have a border in it or not? And it really depends on how they're connecting. When you're creating borders, you can have your borders be black or white. Color borders don't work very well for this. You can choose between black and white. So I'm going to try to put some borders in and see how it looks. I can always take them out later. So to do the borders, you're going to go over to the rectangle tool. The line tool was open on mine, but I'm going to click on the rectangle tool because that way I can make it bigger or smaller. I'm going to zoom in, and I want my border to start by going through over where the pictures are overlapping. Your borders should be small. Okay, we don't want them to be very thick because we don't want them to distract from the picture. So I'm going to make them small like this. You can see the default color that came out was white because that was the color that I had in the palette over here. But I can change that. So if I double click here, I can choose black. I think black works better for the picture because there's not a lot of white in there. And I can say OK. And there's a nice small border in there. If your border is not the correct size, you can go up to Edit, Transform, Scale, and just like you change the size of your picture, you can change the size of your border. One thing I want to consider with this is the rule of thirds. So this image might work really well if they were the same on the left and right side, the same size. But because I made this one on top and this one a little bit smaller, they're a little bit off. So I think I'm going to make my first photo a little bit bigger. So once again, I'll go to Edit, Transform, so that it layers on top of my other picture just a little bit more, so I can still use the rule of thirds. So I'm thinking about, oops, I need to do that again. Edit, Transform, Scale. So I'm going to move her down just a little bit, and then I think about it's closer to rule of thirds this way. It's not exact, but it's closer. And then I can move my shape tool so that border right on top. So it gives hierarchy. It means that I'm going to focus more on this picture and a little bit less on this picture. You could also add borders going all the way around the outside. For this picture, it doesn't really need it. The simple border dividing it is very clean, so I don't need borders on the outside. But if your border starts to get choppy, you might want to. So I could go back in with my rectangle. I'm going to go up to color right away. I'm going to choose black since I know that's the color that I want. And then I could go and I could create small little borders all the way around the edge. Okay, right now I can't see it because it's under my picture layer, so I'm going to move it up. And there I can start to see my borders coming through. Okay, I don't need to remake that shape down here. All I need to do is do a Control J to duplicate the layer. Duplicated it. I can see it in my layers, but this time I'm just going to drag it down and put it underneath here. And that's how I can quickly make another border. Okay, so I could do the same thing on the left and right side. Now, the final thing you want to do is make sure your editing is the same on your left and right side, so your editing matches. So for these, the color is pretty similar, so I would go to my adjustments. I would do maybe the levels to increase my contrast. I want to bring up the lights quite a bit. Not that much. I want to work with curves. I want to bring out down the red just a little bit more. So I'm going to go to curves. I'm going to click on the red, see what happens when you change the red. I don't want to make it darker though. So if I brighten that up a little bit. I'm going to bring my green out a little bit more to bring in some balance. So color curves is just you looking to see they're getting a balance of your colors. There's not really much blue, so it doesn't show up much that way. So I'd continue doing my color and contrast edits to complete this. Then you'll want to save this. So do File, Save As, save it as a JPEG. And then you'll hand it in that way.